So my name is Anna Risi. I work at the Thelma Holbert Gallery as an engagement officer, but my job's changed quite a lot over this past year because of the pandemic, and also rather than working inside the gallery, I'm now working outside with the cabin. So the cabin came out of the pandemic. We were really lucky to have an exhibition which was open, I think, for about 3 weeks before we went into lockdown, of Richard Long's work, and that was from Tate Artist Rooms, and they had given us quite a generous bursary to do a learning programme alongside the exhibition, which we were really excited about, but had to close down all of that because none of it could really happen. So there was a saving which they were happy for us to channel into revamping this unused East Devon District Council trailer and recladding it inside and making it a friendly open space that we could work with groups outside. It was first ready for August bank holiday last year, so quite far on into when we had opened up, but we were able to run sessions for the public and take it out to schools, making all the activities COVID safe. So minimal use of tools, working with Richard Long's process, one of our favourite activities, in fact, even now, is to do painting with clay, you're just using your fingers, because you can clean your hands before you start, and then you know, there's no sharing of tools because they're on the ends of your arms. So the exhibition that we have at the moment is a photographer called Mike Perry, who is an environmentalist. He used to work for Greenpeace, I believe, and is quite active in his passion for the environment. And he's taken some photographs that highlight that. So as part of that exhibition, or one of the things that's come out of it, it's partly through some of our partners, so East Devon District Council and the University of Exeter and Devon County Council all declaring climate emergency. There's an initiative called Climate Conversations, which we've launched with the Mike Perry show, so that's part of the reason we're here today. So essentially this is very similar to a Sidmouth Seafest event, but which couldn't happen in May. So we talked to Sidmouth coastal communities who are based just behind the David Wrigley Wall in the Fisherman's Shed about running a Sidmouth Climate Conversations event. We're planning to do one in Exmouth, which will be at the end of this month, and then also one in Honiton and Axminster. I think that's the plan. And the idea is to give people across the community an opportunity to share their thoughts, feelings and ideas around tackling the crisis with the climate, but hopefully come away feeling positive and tooled up to make a positive change in their own lives and communities. So we do have a range of activities. We've got these activity sheets that we've commissioned as part of the Climate Conversations initiative, and the idea of these is that they're kind of activating sheets really, more than activity sheets. They're not your traditional sort of, join the dots or colour in kind of thing. There's a bit more to them, so that you might feel skilled up to open those conversations with your family, even from a child's point of view, about the difference that could be made. There are along 4 themes, so so if I just open one of them for you, this one I think is the nature one. So there's nature and biodiversity is one about energy, There's one about reduce, reuse, recycle, and one about food and food waste, and perhaps growing food. So the idea is that they're really accessible, so you don't need to have any money necessarily to activate these things. It's just about nudging your way of thinking, and maybe like on the reduce, reuse, recycle one, there's a thing about giving a gift, someone's birthday. You don't need to go to the shops necessarily. It might be that you can just give a bit of your time, and then that can be as much of a gift as, people really want. Because we're owned by East Devon District Council, the gallery is owned by East Devon District Council, and because we're partnered with like the East Devon AONB and Blackdown Hills AONB, we're taking the cabin out all across the region. So we'll be on the estates in Exmouth and Honiton and Axminster, and we'll also be on the AONB land, so up on Woodbury Common. We'll be up there during Heath Week. We'll be at the Donkey Sanctuary. We'll be out at Columpton. I think we're going to be in Ottery as well. So we're kind of trying to make it so that everybody gets a little piece of this pie, but also, trying to share a positive kind of message, because I think there's a lot of anxiety around the climate, and particularly this weekend. I think that can be paralysing, so we're trying to make it so that people feel like they can do something, and even those really little things will really make a difference. And you don't need to have money necessarily. Yeah, so that thing about anxiety and feeling, like there's no point in you trying to make a change, because the difference that you can make is so small that it won't make any difference, but at the same time, the differences that we can make, like in increasing biodiversity, so just planting one seed can make a massive difference, because certainly the argument that's coming out of the Mike Perry show is highlighting the monoculture in our national landscapes, that our national parks are not the vanguards of biodiversity that you would imagine they were. So it's trying to nudge that ocean liner, if you like, into casting a critical eye on it, but also making people realise that just by having a portion of their garden that they let go to, or even like might be near the bus stop, it doesn't necessarily have to be in their garden, but to put a few. One of the activities we're doing is making seed bombs. We've been going around the schools making seed bombs and letting them know the importance of those native wildflowers, and that sort of cycle of change. So when you have those native wildflowers, the butterflies or the moths or even just the insects will come and do their business on those flowers, which then in turn brings the other predators, and it's like a whole cycle. So it's that thing of trying to shift into a circular way of being rather than a linear one, I think is really important at all levels. So we're running activities on the estates, particularly around recycling, because that's a big issue on some of the estates. We're working with the scrap store in Exeter, and they're coming out to bring some scrap, but maybe people will bring stuff from their homes as well that we can turn into inventions for saving the future. So it'd be quite a fun session. So I think it's just making people realise to think differently about rubbish, that it's, it could be a really useful tool in a different way. So I think there will be some people that you won't be able to shift from that way of thinking, but I think the changes that you can make are so, if we all did a little bit of those, even just like turning the lights off or switching the tap off when you're cleaning your teeth, those kind of things, they're really small, but incrementally they make a massive difference. Well, one thing I've noticed, today it's quite quiet, so we're maybe not getting the level of engagement that we might hope for, but at the same time I think people really enjoy seeing it. And when a family, we've been down in Exmouth recently where I was supporting an artist who was delivering something on the beach, so I was only really there to be talking to people. I did have a little activity that people could engage with, but just that thing of seeing something bright and bold and positive is really good for people, I think, coming out of the pandemic. And some people, we're running something in the week next week, and one of the people coming has this be her third time out of the house. You know, so it's really important that people feel safe, and it's much easier to do that if you're outside. So but I think it's a positive, even if you're not engaging, it's a positive thing to see from a distance too, which I really enjoy. So one of the things that's been difficult for me within my job role historically is persuading schools to come into the gallery, because we have great exhibitions, but our spaces are quite domestic. So if I have a class of 30, I have to split them and be running something while the artist that I've engaged is running something, and then carousel them. So it's quite tricksy, but I feel that moving forward with the cabin, it really broadens the scope of what we can offer. And I mean, like next year we've got an exhibition. We're moving more into concentrating on equality and diversity and inequality, and trying to raise awareness around that. And we're working with a photographer, Ingrid Pollard, which is really exciting. But hopefully, if the restrictions or the virus has calmed down enough by next summer, we can be using this as a darkroom. And loads of schools don't have dark rooms. Giving them a darkroom experience on their grounds would be amazing. I mean, they've thoroughly enjoyed what we've been doing with them already, just because they've been really deprived of all their usual experiences of going on trips or, you know, just meeting strangers coming into the school. But we don't go into the school, we're in the playground or on their playing field, you know. So, and I feel that even though, you know, things could calm down massively, we'll see what happens with the pandemic stuff. I think that this is kind of robust to continue ongoingly. And I know that for some, just letting us go and reach those groups that maybe can't get the transport to come to the gallery, or, you know, you don't have a minibus, you know, all of those things, we can come and find them and be with them in their place. So I feel like that we could be using this for some years, I think. So one of the people we've linked up with is Villages in Action, and hoping to do, particularly because of being clad in wood, it kind of lends itself to musical things too, which we haven't really investigated yet. But I'm hoping that maybe come the winter that we can be at some, you know, of the craft fairs or those kind of things in the run-up to Christmas, perhaps, that we can kind of be present but in a different way. We're going to be at the Bovey Craft Fair, which will maybe test it, I think, to see, you know, a slightly different format of how we can deliver from the cabin, because certainly at that point the inside will turn into a shop. I think that tradition is particularly around the village communities around Honiton, certainly. I mean, Honiton's very much the sum of the villages that surround it. Performing aspect from the...
Yeah, because it's like a little stage.
Yes, yeah, no, we were conscious of that when we were putting it together. There's definitely potential for that, but yeah, those are uncharted waters yet. But I know that Villages in Action are really good at having innovative events, so I'm hopeful that we can team up with them to make some of those things happen. But that's all, like, you know, another phase or another bit down the line. That might be next year's thing, yeah.